Good morning. Happy Pride. Because last week we had the Pride Eve, didn't we? So now here we are. So good morning and welcome to Neighborhood Unitarian Universalist Church in Pasadena. Welcome to all members, friends, and guests. My name is Kim Hayden, and I serve as president of the congregation of the Board of Trustees. And I'm happy to serve today as your worship associate. Neighborhood Church creates and grows an inclusive community of faith connected by love, spirit, and service. We acknowledge our presence on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Gabrielino Tongva peoples, the traditional caretakers of the lands and waters of this campus. Today's service is led by the Reverend Dr. Omega S. Burkhart, music led by Tiffany Lantello, Michael Fasto, Wells Lang, and the Neighborhood Chorus. Please take a moment to silence your devices as we begin our service. Our summer schedule has begun, so all children's activities have moved to this sanctuary building. There are activities and additional information for you in the family information sheet in the entryway. Families with young children are always welcome in the sanctuary, and there is an additional play area for the very youngest in our narthex. For adults and older youth who don't need assistance, there's a quiet table for doodling and drawing closest to the organ. I'd like to draw your attention to the following announcements. Join us today after the service right here in the sanctuary for the annual meeting, really the highlight of the church year. So I'm so glad you're here. You're laughing with me, right? Okay, all right, okay. We'll have a quick turnaround after service, so please grab your coffee, visit the bake sale table, and come back within about 15 minutes or so. Second, there's plenty of time to sign up for a Camp de Vanderbilt trip this August. To get more information, ask questions, or sign up, see the camp reps at the table on the patio after the service within that 15-minute time slot, and scholarships are available too. And finally, we're still looking for delegates to represent Neighborhood Church at this year's online General Assembly in June. This is where the important business of the Unitarian Universalist Association takes place. For more information, see a board member and they'll help you get registered. Lastly, as you may have noticed, we have changed the order of the elements in our Sunday services. If you'd like to follow along, our order of service this morning is available as a link in the Sunday email, online by scanning the QR code in the back of the hymnal with your phone camera. Again, welcome to Neighborhood Church, an inclusive faith and community connected by love, spirit, and service. Now please rise and embody your spirit and join us in singing the processional hymn number 78, Color and Fragrance, in the gray hymnal. Thank you.
Gently going. Color and fragrance, magical rhythm, sweet changing music will change us with them. Life within life, inner light, gently glowing, surely you seem to be God's vision growing. We gather today in the ceremonial closing of the church year and in welcoming of the summer months. Today, we gather in communion with the flowers. As Unitarian Universalists, we honor the ways that our lives cycle in rhythm, marked by human calendars and also the solar waves. The flower communion is a part of our liturgical calendar precisely because it gives us an opportunity to mark the past year, the grief, the beauty, and the gratitude, as well as giving us a symbol of an aspirational future, a bloom unfolding, the color and fragrance of changes to come. We will light this chalice today, flame that we tend as a community. As we light the chalice, I invite you into this responsive reading this morning by Tess Baumgartner as a way of centering us in this space together. Please repeat the following line with me during the reading when I indicate. And the line is, tending the flame, lighting the way, together. We'll practice. Tending the flame, lighting the way, together. One more time. Tending the flame, lighting the way, together. In such stormy times, our own lights may waver or at times go out, so we gather around the flaming chalice, the symbol of our faith, to kindle our flames once more. Tending the flame, lighting the way together. As siblings on this journey, we warm one another. We warm one another with our care, with our tears, and our laughter, sharing moments of comfort and celebration. Tending the flame, lighting the way together. Sometimes we carry one another through hard times across deserts, and sometimes we are carried with others to light the way. Tending the flame, lighting the way together. We encourage one another to grow, feeding our spiritual lives and strengthening the bonds of our beloved community. Tending the flame, lighting the way together. We watch and help our children grow into thoughtful youth and inspiring young adults who take our values with them into the world. Tending the flame, lighting the way together. We find ways to work together to create a better world where everyone can shine in the ways of their own brilliance. Tending the flame, lighting the way together. None of us can do this alone. This living, this being in the world, we know that we need one another, especially in such stormy times. Tending the flame, lighting the way together. So we gather to kindle one flame, which sometimes rekindles our own. We gather to tend it together so that it may light our way and brighten the path for others. Tending the flame, lighting the way together. This small vase here on the pulpit always sat on my mother's sewing table. And as a child, I would pick dandelions for her. And she would place them in this little vase, their sunny faces greeting us until eventually they wilted a little bit. But then they would go to the compost pile on the far end of the property, and now that I reflect on it, that's probably why we had so many dandelions. From where they would be tossed, they would then toss their seeds into the air and spread their growth all across our lawn and into the nooks and the crannies of the sidewalk and the driveway. They are persistent little flowers, but there aren't many dandelions in this neck of the woods, so I borrowed one here from Mary Brennan this morning. When I have the occasion to see a yellow flower, a dandelion in particular, I always think of my mom and her sewing table. I'd like to share with you a reading this morning before we get into more music. This is by my colleague, the Reverend Julian Jamaica Soto, and she writes about dandelions this way. Even though they are edible, someone decided that dandelions are weeds. Stragglers to destroy, to uproot. But dandelions never got the memo. They never thought to care, busy instead with dropping roots, flinging seeds, unfurling shoots, and persistent in digging that taproot to depths of 2 or 3 average adults, end to end. The tiny yellow flower survives. You are no less resilient, she writes, reaching both down to the strength that holds you and up to the light, out with your beauty. And you know, having sunk your effort into the cool, damp earth, that while dandelions can be clipped and fought, uninvested, in anyone's opinion, they still throw their sparkling futures into the wind, tomorrow tucked into seeds, and they grow all the way back, strong and bowing at the very same time.
Each Sunday, our congregation dedicates 100% of its contributions. You can donate in one of 2 ways, by using your phone or here in person. You may rise during the music to put your donation in the boxes if you wish. This week, our gifts will support the Building Bridges Task Force. Here with more information is Bonnie Bluestein.
I usually use paper, but I've got my phone today. So, good morning. I'm so pleased to have this opportunity to invite you to attend the 13th Annual Building Bridges Interfaith Dinner and Conversation here at Neighborhood on Sunday, June 28th. I know, I'm supposed to be asking you for money, and I will. But I do want you to experience for yourself what makes Building Bridges so special. Our church formed the Building Bridges Task Force in 2010 with the initial support of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. Some of us might remember that 2010 saw the highest level of anti-Muslim hate crimes since 2001. The original aims of Building Bridges were to forge connections between UUs and Muslims and with the broader community, to stand up with and for Muslims against hate crimes and government assaults on our civil liberties, and to educate non-Muslims about Islam. We reached out to our Muslim neighbors, and the San Gabriel Mosque became a full partner in the Building Bridges Task Force. Early on, we sponsored a series of Introduction to Islam classes and a speaker series, mainly for church members. We organized panel discussions. One was Young and Muslim in America. Another was If They Come For You in the Morning, which addressed the intersectionality of the so-called war on terror and war on drugs and the very real wars on immigrants and civil liberties. And we began the Interfaith Conversations program with a brunch, a tea, and what became the annual dinner event, now in its 13th year. Our mission now is to forge interfaith relationships through joint service projects and social events through which we can learn to understand each other better, support each other better, and stand up with each other better, and to build relationships to bridge separations and differences and work to strengthen a diverse, multicultural, interfaith, beloved community in the Pasadena area. Our work strives towards accountably dismantling racism and other oppressions in ourselves, our institutions, and our society. The theme of this year's 13th Annual Interfaith Dinner and Conversation is Individuals in Community Creating Change. The core of the event is not a speaker or formal presentation, but facilitated small group conversations over a meal of delicious halal Afghan food prepared by a refugee family. We expected to fill to capacity with participants from the church, the mosque, our new partners at Pasadena Mennonite Church, local activists against the genocide in Palestine, and many others. The mosque shares costs as well as the labor, and we accept donations at the door. But we're only able to host this event, I told you this was coming, with the generous support of our congregation through Share the Plate. Thank you, and please register for the dinner to share a plate with us on Sunday, June 28th. Talk to me if you'd like to help or for more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Wells. The flowers on our altar today represent a renewal of hope amidst pain, the power of joy to help us endure despair, the ultimate symbol of the cycle of our lives, the blooms bursting forth from darkness, lives lived as sun-kissed petals, and the fall of those petals as our time on the green earth closes and we become dirt again. Today we celebrate the flowers, but we also celebrate those who are no longer with us. Their deaths still raw to us, their losses still felt in our hearts, their presence still felt in this space of community. Before we proceed with a ritual to remember those who have recently died in this community, I invite you to participate with me in a blessing of these flowers here. Gather with me in prayer as I recite the words written by Norbert Chapek in 1923. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these, thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us, amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts, to be one in desire and affection, in devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in this world. Amen, and blessed be. At this time, we will have a moment of sharing. I invite those of you who are called to do so to rise and come forward to one of the microphones, we'll turn them around, to share the name of a beloved of yours who has died in this past year, whose flower has faded but still blooms in our hearts. We invite the memory of our dearly beloved family members into this space with us.
For Bill Trousdale.
James Marcotte.
Joe Stafford. Wrong mic.
Christopher Andrews.
Michael Finney.
Sylvia Alberto Gill and Laura Lee Fuller.
Martin Matthews.
Kirsty Smith.
Marianita Palangayan.
Please raise your hand if you'd like me to bring the microphone to you.
Uncle Chip.
You have 50 people who have died in ICE detention and concentration camps in the United States.
Their flowers may have faded, but their blooms still live in our hearts. May it be so. The story of flower communion is told by my dear colleagues, the Reverends David and Terry Schwartz, this way. I've adapted their story for today's service. In describing Norbert Čapek and his wife Maja, they say this: his mother was a devout Catholic and his father was agnostic. He became an acolyte at age 10, and in 1890, at St. Martin's Catholic Church, he began his service. In the years that followed, he became a bit disillusioned. He was a priest, but also a cynic. At 18, he apprenticed to his uncle, a successful tailor in Vienna. Norbert discovered the Baptists and became a minister. And he founded almost a dozen churches all the way from Ukraine to Budapest. Yet slowly, his faith became more and more liberal. He left Bohemia under government threat and accepted a call to serve a Baptist church in New York City until one day in 1919. And that day he wrote in his diary, I quote, "I cannot be a Baptist anymore, even in compromise. The fire of new desires, new worlds is burning inside me." Norbert and his wife Maja joined a Unitarian church in New Jersey in 1921. For the same reasons a whole lot of you probably did. Their children liked the religious education program. A few years later, World War I ended. His home country was now independent, and he and Maja returned home to Czechoslovakia. His Unitarian church was the Prague Liberal Religious Fellowship. In just 20 years, his church had over 3,000 members. May we all be so abundant. The traditional Christian communion service of bread and wine would not meet the needs of his growing congregation because his church, like ours, had people who believed different things. Čapek turned to the beauty of the countryside, to the beauty in particular of the flowers. In 1923, he developed the flower ceremony. He asked his congregants to bring in a flower to church from their gardens or the field or the roadside. He invited each person to place their flower in a vase. There was the church community, no less unique for being united. Following the service, each person could take a flower from the vase, a different one than they had brought. Čapek was a visionary minister with a church ahead of its time, a bold church, a church thinking beyond its doors, beyond what it thought possible. It was a church that was willing to take risks, to make tough decisions, to bear disappointment, and to build a new way, first by building a church, and then that church would build the world. That is our church. That was Čapek's church. And for this, the Gestapo arrested him in 1942. The Nazis accused Čapek of listening to foreign broadcasts and sent him to the Dachau concentration camp. Even in starvation and torture, he held a flower ceremony with his fellow prisoners, finding whatever flowers they could among the weeds of the camp. They testified to a beauty larger than themselves and a love that would outlive them. The Nazis killed Norbert Čapek, but his spirit and courage and commitment live on. Those qualities have passed on now to us to make them real. His wife, Maja, brought the flower ceremony to the Unitarian Church in Cambridge, Massachusetts in 1940. And now churches like ours gather in the spring to celebrate this beautiful ritual. Last week, here in this United States of America, the news broke that the Department of Defense eliminated from its list of possible religious affiliations over 180 religions: pagans, Druids, Wiccans, Humanists, Native Americans, and Unitarian Universalists, amongst many more. Of course, this is devastating news, but not because there's a direct implication of action. Let me be clear, there isn't. But it is devastating because it signals yet another attempt at a culture shift towards white, nationalist, Christo-fascism. Of the 30 or so remaining named choices on the list, more than 20 are Christian denominations. Undoubtedly, there will be lawsuits, and a whole conversation has begun in just a few days about the constitutionality of asking about religious affiliation in the context of government anyway. No grave markers with chalices will be destroyed. My Unitarian Universalist military colleagues and friends, those who serve as chaplains and pastors, those who are in the armed forces, they will still continue to serve as Unitarian Universalists proudly, and they will continue to pastor to other Unitarian Universalists in the armed forces. No accreditation will be removed. That can only be done through, for us, the Unitarian Universalist Association. Our tax-exempt status won't be removed as of yet. Seminaries will not be closed. But now, when a service person enlists or requests chaplain care, they will have to mark "other" on their paperwork. This is an intentional belittling. This is an intentional attempt at dehumanization. This is a very purposeful marginalization. But here's why it won't work. We've always been here. Unitarians and Universalists, maybe by other names, but we have always been present from the very earliest conversations about organized religion, the earliest conversations about what is sacred, about what humans' capacity for good is in the world. We have always been a people gathered by action and values, as the story of Norbert and his wife Maja Čapek illustrates. And we will always be here. We will always be here living abundantly at the intersection of humanism and paganism and Christianity and indigenous ways of being in the world. Any attempt to other us will always fail because we cannot be othered when we are everyone.
Amen.
In this administration's attempt to make the Christians into Christo-fascists, in their attempt to unpagan the pagans, in their attempt to dehumanize the humanists, they have made us stronger, because their very attempt to eradicate us only serves to reinforce the fact that we exist. We make them a little nervous. And frankly, that doesn't bother me. I think we must be doing something right if this administration is afraid of us. If it's afraid of the power we wield, it's because we are resilient. We are like dandelions. So be a dandelion. May we thrive in the crevices and the cracks, despite this administration's attempt to curate an unnatural and toxic landscape. May we be the dandelion to their roundup. May we be medicine for a world that so desperately needs it. May we throw our seeds into the wind. May we multiply by the grace of Mother Nature and her cool breezes. Now, without sounding too hyperbolic, this is a quote from a friend of mine, a colleague. Without sounding too hyperbolic, this faith has always been a conscience for this country. Nathan Ryan says this: "It isn't the least bit surprising that an administration hell-bent on moral corruption would try quite literally to other this faith. It is their only option, short of facing up to the real damage they are doing to this world and many of their own people." So today, as Unitarian Universalists, we gather in flower communion, one of the most beautiful Unitarian Universalist celebrations we have. So today, let us choose a flower during our communion, during this tradition that was literally created to fight fascism. And let us do it as both a celebration and a protest. So in a few moments, I invite you to come forward and gather a flower to take home. Or if you'd like to gather a flower to pass to your neighbor who chooses to remain seated, that is fine as well. And I will begin by choosing a flower here for those of you who are at home and cannot join us in person today. We are still glad you are with us virtually. Please start lining up and I'll gather a flower. Before we join in singing our closing hymn together, let us show the garden we are, weeds and all, dandelions and roses and iris, and what else do I see here? I see so many beautiful dahlias, carnations. This is what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist. May we continue to bloom and grow. Join us in singing our closing hymn, please. You are no less resilient than the dandelion. We are no less resilient than the dandelion, reaching both down to the strength that holds us and up to the light and out with our beauty. And we know, having sunk our effort into the cool, damp earth, that while we, like the dandelions, can be clipped and fought, uninvested in anyone's opinion, we throw our sparkling futures onto the wind, tomorrow tucked into seeds, and grow all the way back, strong and bowing at the very same time.